by Ibn Rajab, narrated through Miqdam bin Ma'di Karib, who says, I heard the Messenger of Allah say, the son of Adam does not fill a container worse, more evil than his belly, than his stomach. It is sufficient for the son of Adam to keep his back upright, that he take enough morsels of food to keep his back straight. So let him eat a third for his food, or a third for his food in his stomach, a third for his drink, and a third to allow him to keep breathing. A third food, a third drink, and the rest to allow him to continue breathing. Now, commenting upon this, Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions, this hadith constitutes a comprehensive principle for all of the principles of medicine. And it has been reported that Ibn Abi Masawi, the physician, when he read this hadith in the book of Abi Khaythama, he said, if the people acted upon these words, they would be free of all of the diseases and ailments and the clinics. So they'd be free from all of the diseases and ailments, and the clinics and pharmacies would be shut down. And then he said, then Ibn Rajab continues and he says, indeed he, meaning Ibn Abi Masawi, said this because the origin of all disease is basically an improper process in the gut, in the lower gut, or what they call dysbiosis, incomplete, improper digestion of the food. And Al-Harith bin Kalada, the physician of the Arabs, he said, precaution in the diet is the chief part of medicinal treatment, and this dysbiosis is the chief cause of disease. And he brings a statement from Ibrahim bin Adham, who said, whoever controls his stomach, whoever masters his stomach, masters his religion. And whoever reigns control over his hunger will reign control over the righteous characteristics. This is an amazing statement. That whoever controls his stomach will master his religion. And whoever controls his hunger will reign control over the righteous characteristics. Meaning the one who is unable to control his hunger, he will never be able to develop the righteous characteristics. Think about it, it makes sense. Because if you cannot control the baser lower desires and have the strength and the resolve to control those lower basic instinctive desires, then how on earth are you going to develop the other characters, the noble lofty characters? And if you are unable to master your stomach, how are you going to master your religion? Right? So, these things are basically tied. So the issue of health and disease and righteousness, you see how the Salaf made a connection between all of these things by way of this, by way of this. And in fact, Ibn Rajab, if you return back to his Jami'ul Ulum al-Hikam, in his explanation of this hadith, is right towards the end, because he mentions An-Nawawi's 40 hadith, then he mentions another 10 on top. And this hadith is one of those, and within that explanation, he mentions many statements of the Salaf that speak about the importance of taking less food, and how taking less food is a means of preserving your aql, your intellect, and likewise your age and your faculties. There are some statements in that regard, and so you can refer back to that. Now, coming back to this issue of moderation in food and drink, even now you see there is research now, there are people are bringing, and in fact one particular man, he's written a book on fasting in which he speaks about the 5-2 rule, that you eat normally for 5 days and you fast for 2 days. And he specifically mentions the practice of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ of fasting on Mondays and Thursdays. Right? He makes a mention of this in his book. And so the general point being here that controlling your food, controlling your intake of food and drink, controlling your hunger, and limiting the amount of calories you take is a means of good health, first and foremost, and secondly, of increasing your lifespan. And an increase in your lifespan obviously also means that you are protecting and preserving your faculties. Now, I have some of the statements here as well from Ibn al-Qayyim and others. I'll very quickly summarize some of these statements. Ibn al-Qayyim says illnesses are of two types. So he's speaking here about the material illnesses. Material illnesses arise when there becomes a point of excess in the body where the natural functions are unable to occur in the normal, optimal way. Right? So in other words, you consume in a way that puts a strain, for example, on your liver, on your kidneys, on your various organs. That in turn does not allow the natural functions to occur at the optimum level. Now when this continues, this is the reason behind the occurrence of disease. And he says these are the majority of illnesses. And then he continues and he says this occurs by consuming more food on top of food that previously has not been properly digested. So you eat, and then you eat on top of that. And you eat food which is of little nutritional value. And by indulging in all sorts of different foods which are complex in their composition. So when a person makes it a habit to consume in this way, they will cause them various diseases, some of which will come slowly, some of which will come swiftly. But as for when he's moderate in his eating, takes only what he needs, he keeps a balance of quantity and quality. A balance of quantity and quality. Then the body benefits more from this than it does from a large amount of food. So from this statement we gather many points. The majority of illnesses are related to improper dietary habits. Specifically, taking excess food on top of food that is still not being properly digested. Eating in excess, more than what the body needs. Taking food that has little nutritional value. That you eat food that is not really nutritious. And that's a lot of the food that we eat today is not really nutritious. And having meals that comprise of lots of complex, varied, different types of rich types of foods. So when a person makes this a habit, then obviously these are the diseases of civilization, of towns and cities. They are complex diseases, which come in a slow fashion. And these are diseases like diabetes and heart disease and things of that nature because of abuses in the diet. So a lot of the illnesses arise as a result of food and drink. Now I want to give you an analogy, which is I like this analogy because it is very it allows you to think carefully about how you eat and what you eat. And this analogy is basically, in fact, it is true scientifically and by way of the study of the body's biochemistry, which is that every time you eat a meal, your body has to use some of its inherent capacities and resources to consume that food. And that contributes to your death. Right? So meaning, this is like you can't escape death. Right? Everything that you take into your body, whilst it keeps you alive on the small scale of time, in the large scale of time, it pushes you further towards death. Right? So the analogy that I like to give, in fact, this is all to do with the enzymes in your body. Your body, when you are born, there is, and we believe this from Al-Qada wal-Qadar, that the lifespan of every individual is written. And all of his bodily resources and inherent capacities are already determined at birth. Right? So when you are born, you have, let's call this, you have a bank account. In your bank account, there are enzymes. Enzymes are really the key elements in your body. The enzymes are the ones that modulate and regulate and facilitate and speed up all of the reactions in your body. Without enzymes, there is no life. Right? So your vision, every motion of the hand, the brain that's functioning, every single thing that is happening in the cell, in every individual cell, is being mediated by way of enzymes. Right? So when you are born, you are given your bank account of enzymes. Now, as you proceed to live your life, you will have to make withdrawals from your bank account in order to make your body do what it is doing. So over a lifetime, these enzymes continue to be withdrawn. And there will come a point where, because your bank account has been emptied, the basic elements, the basic functions of the body will stop and cease to function. So for example, the joints in your body will not work as they used to. Your vision will become impaired. Your hearing will become impaired. Right? Your organs will not function in the right way. So basically your body begins to whatever. Now this is because, all of this is to do with the withdrawing from your bank account, right? In order to, make the body do what it's supposed to do. Now, you can withdraw carefully or make sure that you're not withdrawing anything. And all of this is based upon how and what you eat and drink. This is why, if you look into those cultures and civilizations who are the most healthy and who live the longest, you will see certain characteristics in their diets. And in their diets, what they do is that they eat certain foods which are already digested. They are pre-digested. In other words, when you consume that food, your body does not have to do anything to break it down to digest it. Meaning, your body is not having to withdraw from the bank account. Right? Rather, the food has already come pre-digested. Right? So for example, things like sour milk, laban, which is left to ferment and become acidic. It breaks down, the bacteria break it down, and it's basically pre-digested. You drink it, your body has to do next to nothing, right? Likewise, certain foods like sauerkraut, like the sour cabbage or the fermented cabbage, which you find in certain civilizations, they make it a part and parcel of their diet, right? The good bacteria, lactic acid bacteria, breaks down everything. It creates B vitamins and so on and so forth. Everything is already digested. So the point being here is that the way that you prepare foods is such that when you consume these foods, your body is doing next to nothing. This means that your enzyme bank account is always topped up because you're not making withdrawals. Right? And as you grow older and older and older, there will be enough enzymes to take care of your vision, for example, your hearing, whatever else. Now, on the other hand, if you are eating foods which are, which you need to take maybe an overdraft or something, you have to go to an overdraft of enzymes, like you eat fried food. Fried food is very hard to digest, and you're going to have to make lots of withdrawals to consume, to digest a fried fish and chips, for example, or a hefty steak, for example, a huge hefty steak that your enzymes now have to be used. So what happens is, as an emergency, your body says, you know what, I need some proteases, lipases, amylases. Where can I get them? From other parts of the body. So the troops have to come from other parts of the body. And so if you make this a constant practice, what's going to happen is, basically you are consuming yourself, you are making withdrawals from your bank account, and you will die earlier, you will live for less, and your faculties will deteriorate at a quicker pace. Right? So eating in moderation. So remember, there's many things that I don't want you to miss here. Eating in moderation has many things underneath it. When you eat in moderation, you have to be eating nutritious food. You can't just be eating non-nutritious food, because your body has needs. It needs nutrition. You eat in moderation. You eat less, right? You don't eat to the fill. This will give you a longer life. But you eat that which is nutritious. At the same time, the method you use to cook the food, that's why you will see that the civilizations and nations that have good health and live the longest, they have certain methods by which they prepare food. That food is always in at the closest stage to being natural. And the cooking methods are non-harsh and very simple and very moderate, right? Like either they are fermented foods, either they are lightly steamed, and so the food that you are eating is kept at the closest stage as it is. Unlike, for example, when you see that, sometimes you have a curry and you've just cooked the chicken to death. You've just kept it on the oven and just heated it and heated it and heated it and heated it, and where's all the benefit gone in that? Or like the spinach, you make the spinach, you don't take it naturally, but you just make, like the Asians do, they make saag with it, and they just kill all the nutrition that's in it by just keeping on the heat for hours and hours and hours and hours and whatever else. So the point being that how you prepare the food is also an art and a skill. It is a lost art and a lost skill, right? How would you prepare different types of foods in the most healthy manner to gain all of the benefits out of that food? That in itself is something that you have to study and you have to look at as well. So I mean, there are many more things that can be said about this, and we don't really have much time, to be honest. So we'll conclude that there. The second element then that Islam has given attention to is the issue of moderation in food and drink. And beneath this, there are so many things that a person can study and look at. So this is just a basic indication for you to pursue further. So quality of food and in a certain moderate quantity. Before I forget as well, that obviously in a modern context we see that most foods, we are losing nutrients in the foods because of large scale farming methods. We see that the minerals are no longer in the soil anymore because of decades and decades and decades of industrial farming. So it is inevitable that a person has to take supplements in order to make up for the deficiencies in terms of nutrition. And so for that reason, vital elements like selenium, for example, vitamin D, which underlie hundreds of processes in the body, these are things which a person can look at and, as a means of supplementing a good nutritious diet in order to maintain a healthy body.